What is up guys, Stu here. So last week in the UK, Life was released into cinemas. I went over and saw that bad boy, so let's talk about that shit. So Life, if you haven't heard about it, is a new sci-fi film, which is kind of like a survival sci-fi horror in the same vein as things like Alien and Sunshine and, well, basically every other sci-fi survival horror film that's ever happened. But this one's brought to us by Daniel Espinosa, a director who's brought us films like Safe House and Child 44, and it's actually got a pretty solid cast behind it, so I was kind of excited for this one. And I guess that may have also been helped out by the fact that Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds are the power couple I never knew I wanted. So yeah, marketing and bromancing out of the way, I was kind of interested to see whether this one would turn out to be a good film because it's got a lot of stuff going in its favour, and I am a big fan of sci-fi survival horror films, so I went and checked it out, and I've got to say, after finishing it, it's pretty solid. Nothing at all groundbreaking about it, but it's still a solid, fun time. So the film basically tells the story of a bunch of astronauts who are up in the International Space Station, and they get sent a sample of what they think is life from Mars, so they're like, yeah, this is awesome. Let's play with it and experiment, and then that life from Mars turns out to not be friendly. It doesn't want to play ball. But the film, as I said, is led by a really solid cast of a bunch of great actors, namely Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Reynolds, and Rebecca Ferguson, who are, I guess, the trio of main characters, although I guess every astronaut in a film is sort of a main character. But those are the three that stood out to me. You guys know I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I think he's basically the best part of most films he's in. And here he is definitely the best part of this film from an acting standpoint. He does do a very solid job with the character he's got. Ryan Reynolds in the cast, really great as well. You know I love me some Ryan Reynolds. He's always the kind of, I guess, fun, quirky part of the films. And here he's definitely some of the comedic value. He's got his quips like he does as he's Ryan Reynolds. And it works. It does work. He does feel like a good part of the group of astronauts in the film. I liked his buddy stuff with Jake Gyllenhaal, which we knew was going to work because interviews happened. But also Rebecca Ferguson is really solid in the film as well. We knew she was good after Rogue Nation. She nailed that film. And whilst this isn't quite as big a role as Rogue Nation, she does do a really good job with it. And again, like Jake Gyllenhaal and everyone else, I believed her character was going through the shit that she was going through. So yeah. As far as central characters that we want to root for in a film like this go, they do a really good job here. The direction from Daniel Espinosa on the whole is very solid as well. It is a well-executed film that we have seen done many times before, is the best way of putting it, I think. I mean, with such iconic films like Alien existing, it is kind of hard to escape some of the cliches of the sci-fi genre when you've got an alien that's attacking people and you're trying to survive on a spaceship. But this film doesn't really seem to attempt to go anywhere new, which is why I don't think it's such a huge problem here, because I think it's a film which knows that it's going to draw links to existing sci-fi survival horror films in the past, and it kind of embraces that and goes with it. So I think the direction is less here about making something incredibly new and unique and refreshing and individual, and more about just sort of embracing the genre cliches that come with a sci-fi horror film like this and just trying to nail it and execute that as best it can. And so I think on that side of things, it does do a good job. I don't think it nails it perfectly. I don't think it is as good as previous sci-fi horror survival films we've had, namely Alien, as I said, but also films like Sunshine and Gravity. I think those are done better by better directors. I think the thing that he nailed best from a direction standpoint here is just the tension and the claustrophobia of the situation that all these characters are going through. I think that was fantastically realised, and so it maintains that really well throughout, and that means that there aren't really any dull moments. It is an exciting film, and it seems to fly by. I mean, it's not a long film, but it's definitely not a short film, but it feels like it's quite quick, which I think is clearly a testament to how well it's able to get us sucked into it. I was in the film and I was enjoying it from that side of things. I also enjoyed the direction of specific sequences, particularly the death sequences, because obviously it's a survival horror set in space with a bunch of astronauts. They're going to start getting picked off one by one, and so that's where I think this film really shines, in the kind of moments where people are getting killed by this alien. They are exciting and interesting and different, and I like those bits the most. And maybe the first death as well, can't spoil it, but whoa! That was kind of fucked up, right? I mean, regardless of how you felt about the film, there is no way you watched that first death scene and were like, yeah, that was great, I'm going to go for a nice walk in the park, yay, happiness. No, that shit was fucked up, and it hit me. As soon as people start dying in this film, I'm like, yeah, this is... I like it. This is good. Also, visually, it is a very good-looking film. That is perhaps the best thing this film has going for it. It is a film which I think needs to be watched in the cinema to appreciate it as best you can, because... my golly, yeah, it's good looking. And that almost feels like a get-out-of-jail-free card at this point. I feel like if you set a film in space, you're instantly in for a good looking time. I mean, yeah, sure, you can still fuck that up, but on the whole, I like the setting of space, so seeing a big film in space with things going kablammy, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty, I'm enjoying it. And leading on from that, I did also enjoy on the whole the creature design in this one. I'm not going to go into details too much because it's kind of nice not knowing what the creature ends up being, but it's really cool. I like the fact that it starts off as this tiny microscopic bit of bacteria or whatever, and it becomes something which is pretty fucked up. I mean, it's all like kind of tentacly and it flies around the place. It's like some weird kind of fucked up flannel. I mean, maybe flannel wasn't a good choice of word there. There's not really a huge amount threatening about a flannel, really, is there? What is that? What are you... But there are also a lot of things about this film which, no, not really great. And the biggest one of those for me is the fact that this film is, on the whole, really fucking dumb, really fucking stupid. Characters do some really questionable shit throughout, which does happen to suck me out the film at certain moments, which is obviously not what you want in a film like this. I mean, on the whole, it did do a good job of sucking me back into the tension of the film, and I think there is definitely an argument to be made for the fact that there are inevitably stupid things that are going to happen within a genre like this. I don't think some of the classics and some of the better things in the genre are free of stupid decisions from characters. But that is a sign of a good director in itself. A director who can hide those big, stupid flaws from you on first viewing, so it's not instantly sucking you out of the film when you're watching it. And I think that's the problem with various different moments in this film. I get it that things need to be happening for the plot to progress, but it's so obviously just there for the plot to progress in that way. Like, things are malfunctioning and there's specific things that they can and can't do on the space station, which are clearly just so that they can set up a sequence with an alien that is coming at them because they can't do that thing. It's glaringly obvious, and that sort of stuff did suck me out of the film. And also, fucking characters seem to be so stupid at points. How are they actually astronauts on the ISS? There must have been some kind of training to get up there where they're like, hypothetically, if there was a quarantine room and you saw someone get murdered horribly in there by an alien, which you don't know what it is, and it's still in there, would you go straight in there? And immediately, if someone said yes to that, you'd be like, well, maybe we shouldn't have them on the International Space Station. But no, clearly that isn't the case, because certain characters in this film are fucking idiots. Particularly Jake Gyllenhaal's. Which breaks my heart even more, because I love Jake Gyllenhaal, and I don't like seeing him do stupid things. But the character that is written for him seems to instantly jump to the I'm a fucking idiot card. Like, there is more than one point in this film where any rational person would be like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be doing that, but Jake Gyllenhaal's like, fucking throw me in there, what? I don't believe anyone would do that. And I guess the film tries to get away with it by being like, oh, well, he doesn't like Earth, and he doesn't want to go back to Earth, he's at home with himself in space. That doesn't fucking explain why he's such an idiot, and why he would threaten the entire existence of the human race just because he's like, I want to save someone. There are moments like that which really did suck me out of the film. But as I said, it did get me back in, weirdly. So it is a problem, but it's not like, oh, this is a 1 out of 10 problem. Another problem for me is that there are moments which seem to hint at a more kind of deeper and profound look at things that seem to look like it's going a direction which is interesting and fresh and will make us think about things and be like, oh, that's actually something I haven't thought about. That's a really interesting aspect to bring to this. That's cool. But whenever that does happen, it kind of quickly doesn't do that. But there are certain scenes, there's one in particular between Jake Gyllenhaal and Rebecca Ferguson's character, which I'm actually, this is actually almost very moving. I kind of nearly started tearing up on it. This is actually quite deep and quite beautiful and quite profound, and then it doesn't really go anywhere. And it kind of drops that thread just to have a weird, crazy batshit ending. And that kind of conveniently brings me on to the ending, which I will not go into details on because spoilers are not fun for anyone. But I did see the ending coming a mile off. I don't know if that's a huge problem because the ending was it was cool. It's a cool ending. It's a cool ending. There's no denying that. But yeah, there's like a point in the final act of this film and I'm like, oh, okay, so this is going to be the ending. And then it happened. So at the end of the day, Life is a interesting one because it is undeniably not original in the slightest. Basically 90% of this film we have seen before and we've seen done better. But I think it's also a film which knows that, and the execution of what it does do is enough to justify going to see it and enough to make me enjoy it as a film. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a very, very low 4 stars. Hinging between a high 3 and a low 4, but I think it's going to get a 4 stars for me. I reckon I could watch this one again. It wasn't a horrible time. It was good fun. But what about you guys? Have you seen Life? Were you put off by how similar it is to previous things we've seen from the genre? Or did you just enjoy it as its own thing and were just hooked from the get-go? Let me know what you thought in the comments below. I'd love to know. And as usual, if you like this review and you want to see me talk about more shit, go ahead and click subscribe. But until next time, stay beautiful, mother truckers.